There are pivotal times in life that alter everything. Upon reflection, one recognizes that it commenced quite mundanely. Nonetheless, such mundanity is never static. My narrative commenced in that manner. Liam, my stepson, and I were having a typical evening. In the living room following Marquez's demise, quiet enveloped this residence. For 2 years I had been endeavoring to reconstruct the fragmented aspects of my existence. However, I had not observed that Liam had matured. Perhaps I was unwilling to acknowledge it. We were viewing an action-packed film interspersed with elements of romance. Liam was seated beside me, reclined on the couch, arms nonchalantly extended, appearing as though he possessed the space. It was the inaugural occasion I observed him in that manner. His shoulders were more robust, and his jawline was more pronounced. He had transcended boyhood. He was indisputably a man. However, I swiftly dismissed that notion from my mind. He is my stepson. I reminded myself, however, that night, I was unaware that those reminders would prove inadequate. As the film progressed, the scenes became increasingly intense. Liam inclined slightly to the side, placing his arm on the back of the couch, moving. Little closer to me, it appeared he was on the verge of speaking. Yet here, framed for an instant, we made a contact act. I perceived profundity in his eyes at that moment. A feeling of disquiet enveloped me. A portion of me tempted to dismiss it, to rationalize the situation. It is inconsequential. Merely a film. Merely a misinterpretation. I assured myself, however, my emotions were not deceiving me in a beautiful moment. I sensed his breath caressed my cheek. Unbeknownst to him, he had advanced nearer. His hand on the couch was positioned so near my shoulder that I could not discern whether he was about to make contact with me internally. I was disordered proximity to him induced discomfort. Nevertheless, it somehow generated a thrill within me. That sensation instilled fear in me. However, events were unfolding rapidly, rendering me unable to maintain pace with my own thoughts. Cassidy. He articulated, his tone subdued and somewhat uncertain. I wish to convey a message to you. I faced him, my heart pounding. Indeed, Liam, I inquired, albeit my bow trembled. He expressed his gratitude for everything. Subsequent to Marquez's demise, you have consistently supported me. You were not obligated, yet you preceded your presence youred. I never felt isolated in this home. The responsibility lies with you. His remarks profoundly affected me, although the moment's intensity rendered me even more susceptible. Certainly, Liam, I replied, suppressing a smile. I am pleased by your presence. However, he maintained his gaze upon me. Me too. He spoke slowly, his voice resonating with a deeper timbre. Your being here instills a sense of tranquility in me. The atmosphere between us suddenly became oppressive. He likely experienced it as well, for he slightly retracted his hand, and his gaze remained fixed on mine. That moment I was uncertain about how to proceed. My heart was racing uncontrollably, and my thoughts were disorganized. I endeavored to preserve the gap between us. However, a spark had already been kindled in my head. He was no longer a boy. That revelation struck me that night, and it was a revelation that would alter everything on that night. Liam's demeanor towards me was altered, more fervent, more emotive. For years I had assumed a maternal role for him, although the Liam beside me that evening was no longer the child he once was. At 19, he was tall, broad-shouldered, and unquestionably attractive. However, he remained my stepson, did he not? I held on to that thought while attempting to quell the tumultuous emotions within me. However, I could not have anticipated that it would not conclude at that point. When Liam gazed at me that night, the profound E in his eyes rendered me utterly vulnerable. While contemplating his unusual emotional warmth that day, I failed to recognize how imminent an event was. That night, this narrative which commenced that evening would irrevocably alter the trajectory of my life. If you appreciate listening to confessions of this nature, please join my channel, subscribe, and activate notifications to provide your support. Believe me, this narrative will be among the most exhilarating you will ever encounter. Several days had elapsed since that night. Liam was behaving. Usually during breakfast he conversed more frequently, and his gaze seldom departed from me. He began assisting with household tasks in a manner previously unprecedented for him. "Cassidy let me toast-assist you," he remarked one morning while observing me mopping the floor. He seized the broom from my grasp and commenced the task himself. I gazed at him in astonishment. He had never engaged in such an activity previously. "I am aware that you manage all responsibilities in this household independently," he remarked, his gaze locked into mine. "You are merely one individual assistance is required for you." The words astonished and unexpectedly affected me. "Thank you, Liam," I expressed, attempting to stabilize the subtle quiver in my voice. However, an internal warmth enveloped me. His candid recognition of my alone resonated profoundly. Subsequently, while I was preparing food in the kitchen, I sensed Liam's gaze upon me. He was positioned behind me, leaning on the counter, merely observing. However, they were not the types of appearances to which I was accustomed. His gaze traversed my physique, my pelvic region, my dorsal region, my hair. Initially, I believed I was merely hallucinating. "No, Cassidy, you are exaggerating," I reminded myself. However, I could perceive the intensity in his stare. I endeavored to behave normally, however. I could not dismiss the subtle exhilaration I experienced. I genuinely appreciated it. It had been an extended period since I experienced such focused attention from another individual. Upon Liam's departure from the kitchen, I felt compelled to approach the mirror. I observed my reflection. In my 30s, I remained attractive. I possessed a slender waist, ample hips, and a well-defined physique due to consistent training. My light brown, wavy hair cascaded elegantly down my shoulders, contouring my face softly. My mammary glands, it appears they have overlooked my age. I had not examined my reflection in the mirror for an extended while at that time. An emotion awakened within me. A transformation was occurring. I sensed it. Liam's actions became increasingly apparent as the days progressed. His gaze no longer departed from me. Occasionally, it was a nonchalant contact. Occasionally, merely a singular term suffices. However, I began to observe that he was encroaching against the limits. Between us, perhaps the most troubling spect was that I discovered I was deriving pleasure from it, following the events in the kitchen, that day when I reclined in bed that night. One thought persisted in my mind. Liam had transcended boyhood. He had developed into a sophisticated, attractive man. However, I could not have anticipated the extent of my excitement upon that understanding, and I was aware shortly a moment will arise when everything will devolve into an inextricable situation. One evening, I returned home after being out. The view that confronted me rendered me speechless. Ubiquitous candles, flora, an elegantly arranged table. A romantic ambiance I was particularly enthralled by. The birthday surprise that Liam had orchestrated initially, I was incredulous that it was intended for my birthday. This degree of effort appeared more like to what one would undertake for a romantic partner. Upon Liam's entrance into the living room to meet me, instantly comprehended the rationale behind my previous thoughts. He donned a white shirt and black trousers. I had never observed him in this manner, previously well organized and highly charismatic. It was difficult to avert my gaze from him. He remarked with a subtle smile, "I aim to make this day extraordinary for you." Subsequently, he presented me with a package. Upon opening it and observing the dress within, I gazed at him in astonishment. The dress was a striking, vibrant crimson with a smooth material, a pronounced open back, and a high slit up. On witnessing it, I experienced a surge of both exhilaration and trepidation within me. "Did you purchase this for me?" I inquired, astonished. "Certainly, it is your birthday, and I wish for you to don something exceptional," he stated in a composed tone. "I am confident it will appear remarkable on you," although his stare remained. Focused, I retrieved the dress and proceeded to my room. I stood before the mirror. The gentle crimson fabric caressed my skin. evoking a sensation I had not encountered in quite some time upon donning the garment. I recognized that I had not adorned myself in an attire that accentuated my body so exquisitely in years. My elongated legs emerged gracefully through the slit, the contour of my waist, and the sleek line of my back harmoniously enhanced the dress's design. I gazed at my reflection, and after a brief moment of contemplation, I grinned and murmured, "To myself, this is absurd. I am adorning myself for Liam. Indeed, I appear remarkable in this attire." I examined my reflection with greater scrutiny, confronting realities I had overlooked for years. Although I was in my late 40s, this outfit rejuvenated my sense of youth, making me feel as if I were in my 20s. Once more, my skin remained smooth, my light brown hair cascaded gently down my shoulders, elegantly freeing my face. Within, I experienced a surge of exhilaration, an exhilaration I had not experienced in an extended period. Inhaling deeply, I exited the room as I descended to the living room. Liam's gaze fixated on me, remaining unwavering. His gaze rendered the situation further strange. His glance unmistakably conveyed admiration. With a smile, I expressed my gratitude, stating that I owe this to you. The outfit is remarkable. However, I swiftly averted my sight, feeling self-aware under Liam's penetrating stare. I was correct. Liam stated, his gaze fixed upon me. "You appear exceptionally beautiful in that clothing." Upon receiving such a candid comment, my pulse raced. Nonetheless, I attempted to dismiss it by responding, "You are exaggerating." Liam directed me to the table. He had arranged 2 wine glasses, were positioned with a bottle of red wine beautifully placed in the center. For a brief instant, I perceived myself in a wholly distinct situation. This did not resemble a birthday celebration. It resembled a romantic meal. However, I refrained from speaking, as the ambience had entirely captivated me. Liam uncorked the wine and decanted it into our cups. Melodic tunes resonated softly in the background, while the wine imparted a pleasant richness over our palates. Initially, are centered on the past, namely with Marquez and the transformations in our lives. As the evening progressed, I observed Liam gradually directing the conversation towards a more intimate subject. "Cassidy," he stated abruptly, his voice kind, yet imbued with gravity. "How can a woman of your caliber be solitary? I simply do not comprehend it." He made a contact with him, utterly speechless. "Liam, solitude is not always a matter of choice. Life often results in isolation," I remarked, although his glance conveyed a profound significance. "You need not remain solitary," he remarked, raising his glass to his lips. "A woman of your stature possesses desires. City. Furthermore, I am present." The words were stifled in my throat. His words affected me more profoundly than I anticipated. I lifted my glass and consumed another sight. However, my gaze remained fixed on Liam. This birthday has ceased to be merely a celebration. It was transforming into something quite distinct. On to placing his wineglass down, Liam maintained his gaze onto me. "Cassidy, you appear truly remarkable. I aimed for this evening to be exceptional for you because you merit it," he asserted, his tone subdued yet resolute. I offered a timid smile, while rotating my glass and my palm. "Your kind words are much appreciated, Liam. However, at times I ponder the rationale behind your considerable exertion," I remarked. Liam arched an eyebrow marginally and responded, "Because you merit it. You are more than merely a stepmother. Cassidy, you exceed that." Characterization. Significantly, his tone has a profundity that both astonished and profoundly affected me. For an instant, neither of us averted our gaze. The quiet between us exacerbated the stress. My heart raced, yet I could not summon the courage to utter a word that might disrupt the moment. Liam gradually rose from his seat, circumnavigated the table, and approached my side. He leaned closer me, resting his palm on the table's edge. "Cassidy, you are unworthy of sharing your solitude with someone who fails to value you." He stated that no one should underestimate a woman of your caliber. I initiated a conversation with Liam. Although I was at a loss for words, the words were lodged in my throat as I was going to articulate my thoughts. Liam leaned in closer to my visage. He whispered that he could not conceal his feelings over this matter. Subsequently, his lips encountered mine. The kiss utterly disoriented me. I experienced fervor and intimacy, a bond one had not encountered in years. Liam's hands gradually descended to my waist, drawing me nearer to him. A moment of astonishment rapidly transformed into an involuntary response. Our lips remained, intertwined for what seemed like an eternity, as if time itself had ceased. However, I was abruptly confronted with reality. I gradually distanced myself from Liam utterly. Breathless text. This is incorrect, I stated, my voice quavering. Liam, I must return to my room was all I could articulate. Liam gazed at me and inhaled deeply. Apologies, Cassidy, but I was unable to suppress this sensation, has stated, his tone, composed yet imbued with intensity. I rose abruptly and rushed to my room upon entering. I closed the door and leaned against it. Inhaling deeply, my heart raced as I attempted to comprehend the recent events. I positioned myself on the edge of my bed and gazed into the mirror. Even my mirror seems incapable of dispelling the burden of that moment. What were the circumstances that led to this occurrence? I murmured to myself. The tumult in my head, compounded by the influence of the liquor, gradually lured me into my bed. Upon resting my head on the pillow, the emotions and burdens of the evening engulfed me and I succumbed to slumber. However, the night had not concluded. Subsequently, I proceed. A subtle sound. I opened my eyes and observed a shadow at the entrance. The door gradually opened, revealing Liam's form. In the faint light, is Cassidy. Present, he murmured gently. His voice was subdued, yet it conveyed a certain resolve. My heart began to race once more. As he entered the room in the stillness of the night, I acknowledge that my presence here is inappropriate. However, I am unable to control it, he stated, shutting the door behind him. At that moment, the expression in Liam's eyes indicated that the night was far from concluded. His gaze's intensity and that bare of his speech utterly captivated me. My heart was racing intensely as if it may explode from my chest. I recognized the necessity to communicate with him. Upon making eye contact with him, years of repressed emotions abruptly emerged. I recognized the necessity of providing you with a response. Liam stated, my voice quavering yet imbued with unvarnished sincerity. I share your sentiments. I desire you. Liam's resolute gaze utterly enthralled me. The emotions I'd repressed for years were no longer concealable. My heart raced, and I recognized the necessity to reply. I inhaled deeply to stabilize my trembling voice. I acknowledged that I must provide you with a response. Liam, I stated, fixing my gaze upon him. I had the same sentiment. I desire you. Upon uttering those words, the blend of astonishment and joy on Liam's visage instilled in me a wave of confidence. A gentle smile graced my lips. As I briefly closed my eyes to compose myself kindly, before I lose my resolve, I declared, my hands shifting to my shoulders as I spoke. I gradually lowered the delicate straps of my dress. The fabric slipped from my body and descended to the floor, leaving me standing, while Liam's breath faltered. The admiration and need in his gaze intensified the exhilaration. Within me, Liam approached me without hesitation, and our lips connected once more. His kiss was so imbued with passion that it seemed as if the entire world had ceased to exist. His hand encircled my waist, drawing me closely to him as the kiss intensified. Ultimately, he softly directed me towards the bed. Upon reaching the precipice, Liam's hands gently placed me onto the mattress as my gaze remained fixed on his imposing presence compelled my total submission. Liam crouched swiftly, removed his shirt, and discarded it. He positioned his knees on the bed and leaned toward him. The intensity of longing in his gaze further ignited the passion within me. His fingertips gradually glided down my cheek, rediscovering my lips at that instant, the barriers that had developed between us over the years entirely dissolved at that moment. I experienced an emotion I had not encountered in more than 2 years. I had completely capitulated. As Liam proceeded, I clutched the covers firmly with my hands and shut my eyes. I allowed myself to become immersed in the tension and exhilaration surging through my body upon opening my eyes and observing Liam with his flushed visage and muscular shoulders. I found myself unable to resist. I extended my hands to his back, and in a brief moment of exhilaration, I embedded my claws into his skin. Liam likely enjoyed it. As his heartbeat accelerated further, I placed my palm on his chest, sensing his rapid heartbeat, and at that instant, Liam could no longer restrain himself and surrendered. We had capitulated to one another, and Liam, gasping, reclined beside him on that day. While discussing love topics, I succumbed to slumber. Following this day, my life was destined to undergo a radical transformation. I recently experienced a night of unparalleled happiness. At that point, I recognized that this was merely the commencement. Ensure you pay attention to the subsequent developments. As this narrative does not conclude here, remain attentive. If you have reached this point, I am aware that my narrative has profoundly impacted you. There is far more to convey, and you will not wish to overlook any of it. Remember to click the follow button, activate notifications, and provide a comment regarding this narrative.